Tonight, allow your thoughts to grow still as we wander through the calm world of Hera, the quiet Queen of Olympus. There will be no hurried adventures, only peaceful temples, gentle ceremonies, and the slow rhythm of ancient traditions. Close your eyes, breathe comfortably, and let the stories of sacred marriages, royal halls, and timeless rituals carry you into deep and restful sleep. High above the familiar mountains of Greece, the ancient imagination placed Hera upon a calm throne among the immortals. She was honored as Queen of Olympus, carrying a quiet dignity that reflected order more than spectacle. In sacred poetry, her presence often marked the importance of family, lawful union, and the careful balance that held divine society together. Rather than rushing from adventure to adventure, Hera could be imagined as a steady figure whose authority rested in patience, ceremony, and enduring custom. The rhythm of her story invites the mind to slow, like soft evening light settling across peaceful stone. Ancient worshippers recognized Hera through symbols that suggested grace and permanence. A polished crown rested upon her head, not merely as decoration, but as a sign of responsibility. Her calm bearing reminded listeners that leadership was often expressed through quiet confidence rather than loud display. In many temples, artists portrayed her standing with composed posture, wrapped in flowing garments that echoed the balanced proportions admired throughout Greek art. Even in silence, she represented an ordered world where sacred traditions were carefully preserved from one generation to the next. The stories describe Hera as the daughter of Cronus and Rhea, belonging to one of the oldest generations of Olympian gods. Like her brothers and sisters, she emerged into a renewed cosmic order after the age of the Titans had passed. Her place within this divine family connected her to the great unfolding of Greek mythology, yet her own role remained distinctive. She became associated with lasting institution rather than wandering exploits, embodying continuity across changing seasons and centuries of worship throughout the Greek world. As queen beside Zeus, Hera occupied a central place within the imagined household of Olympus. Ancient poets frequently describe the divine court as resembling an idealized royal palace, where ceremonies unfolded with careful formality. Hera's position reflected the cultural importance of marriage as a respected institution, binding households together through shared responsibilities and enduring commitments. Although myths sometimes explore moments of disagreement among the gods, her lasting identity remained connected to the sacred bond of lawful union and the stability it was believed to encourage. Many Greek communities built temples dedicated to Hera in peaceful settings, surrounded by open skies and gentle landscapes. These sanctuaries became places where festivals, offerings, and prayers quietly marked the passing of the years. Columns stood in balanced rows, while sunlight drifted across polished stone from morning until evening. Travelers arriving at such sacred places would have encountered an atmosphere shaped by ritual, architecture, and calm repetition, rather than hurried movement. The temples themselves expressed the steady qualities associated with the goddess they honored. Among Hera's traditional sacred animals, the peacock became one of the most familiar symbols in later Greek and Roman art. Its graceful feathers suggested beauty, dignity, and royal presence. Earlier traditions also connected Hera with the gentle cow, an ancient emblem of nurturing strength and serene majesty. These symbolic companions reflected different aspects of her character, without disturbing the quiet atmosphere surrounding her worship. Each image invited contemplation of balance, patience, and the enduring cycles of nature that unfolded beneath the heavens. The month-by-month rhythm of ancient festivals allowed communities to remember Hera through shared customs instead of dramatic displays. Offerings of flowers, woven garments, and carefully prepared sacrifices formed part of ceremonies carried out according to long-established traditions. These gatherings strengthened social bonds while honoring the divine protector of marriage and household life. Even after the voices of worshippers faded into evening, the temples remained quietly waiting beneath the stars, preserving a sense of continuity that reached across generations. Greek sculptors often portrayed Hera with calm expression and balanced proportions, reflecting artistic ideals of harmony rather than intense emotion. Draped robes flowed in measured folds that echoed the graceful geometry of temple architecture nearby. Such statues encouraged thoughtful observation instead of excitement, inviting visitors to pause within cool sanctuaries where light and shadow slowly crossed the marble floor. The stillness of these works helped express the lasting nature of divine order as imagined by ancient craftsmen and worshippers alike. Several important sanctuaries dedicated to Hera stood in places such as Argos, Samos, and Olympia. Each location developed its own traditions while sharing respect for the goddess's enduring authority. Pilgrims traveling along dusty roads would eventually see columns rising above the landscape, offering a destination of familiar ritual and peaceful devotion. Though centuries have passed, the remaining stones continue to suggest quiet endurance beneath changing skies, reminding modern visitors of the gentle persistence of ancient religious life. Within Greek thought, marriage represented more than a personal relationship. It formed the foundation of households, inheritance, hospitality, and community stability. Hera's sacred role reflected these wider cultural values, connecting domestic life with divine blessing. Her myths therefore carried meanings beyond individual events, expressing hopes that homes might remain orderly, prosperous, and enduring through changing fortunes. This association gave her worship a peaceful constancy, rooted in everyday life rather than distant heroic adventures. Even the architecture of Hera's temples echoed qualities associated with her presence. Broad foundations, evenly spaced columns, and carefully measured proportions created an atmosphere of quiet balance. Builders shaped these sanctuaries to endure through passing seasons, allowing sunlight, wind, and gentle rain to become familiar companions of sacred stone. The resulting spaces encouraged calm reflection, where the steady repetition of architectural forms mirrored the lasting traditions celebrated within their walls. As daylight faded across the Greek countryside, sanctuaries dedicated to Hera gradually settled into silence. Birds returned to distant trees, warm colors softened across marble surfaces, and cool evening air moved gently between the columns. The goddess herself could be imagined not through sudden movement, but through enduring presence, as though the quiet strength of the temple expressed something lasting about her character. Such peaceful scenes remain among the most comforting images left by the ancient world. Long after active worship had ended, poets, historians, and travelers continued to remember Hera as one of the great figures of Greek mythology. Her temples inspired careful study, while surviving sculptures preserved echoes of ancient devotion. Across centuries, changing civilizations encountered these monuments with curiosity and respect. The calm dignity associated with Hera remained woven into the memory of classical Greece, carried forward by enduring works of stone and thoughtful storytelling, rather than by noise or spectacle. In the quiet imagination of the night, Hera rests as a symbol of continuity, sacred order, and gentle majesty. Her crown reflects responsibility, her temples speak of patient craftsmanship, and her stories preserve the values of an ancient civilization that sought harmony between the human and the divine. Around her, Olympus becomes still beneath broad constellations, while the marble sanctuaries below remain silent guardians of memory. The peaceful image of the queen endures with the calm rhythm of timeless stone beneath the stars. In the quiet imagination of the ancient Greeks, the marriage of Hera and Zeus represented more than the union of two powerful deities. It reflected the hope that order could gently emerge from partnership, family, and shared responsibility. While the myths sometimes describe moments of disagreement between them, religious tradition often emphasized the enduring bond itself. Their sacred marriage became a symbol of continuity across generations, encouraging communities to see marriage as part of the wider harmony linking households, cities, and the divine world. In peaceful ceremonies and thoughtful prayers, this enduring union offered reassurance that lasting commitments possessed a sacred place within everyday life. Many Greek wedding customs quietly honored Hera, asking for her blessing before a new household began. Offerings of fruit, flowers, woven cloth, and carefully prepared cakes were presented with respectful simplicity. These gifts were not displays of wealth but expressions of gratitude and hope for a peaceful future. Families believed that a stable marriage supported not only two individuals, but also children, neighbors, and the community itself. In this gentle understanding, Hera watched over promises spoken with sincerity, reminding people that patience, loyalty, and mutual respect could strengthen the foundations of daily life through the passing seasons. One of the most celebrated festivals connected with Hera was the Hieros Gamos, or sacred marriage, observed in different forms across the Greek world. These ceremonies did not seek to reenact every myth, but instead honored the divine principle of union that sustained both nature and society. Ritual songs, offerings, and processions expressed gratitude for stability, fertility, and peaceful prosperity. The festival quietly connected the rhythms of agriculture with the rhythms of family life, suggesting that healthy relationships and healthy harvests both depended upon care, balance, and the patient cooperation of many unseen forces working together. Ancient temples dedicated to Hera often stood in calm landscapes where mountains, rivers, or open plains framed the horizon. Their sturdy columns reflected permanence, while their balanced proportions invited quiet reflection. Worshippers approached these sacred places with measured steps, bringing offerings and prayers shaped by familiar traditions passed from one generation to the next. Within these sanctuaries, Hera was honored not only as queen of the gods, but also as guardian of lawful unions and enduring households. The temples themselves became lasting reminders that stability could be expressed through architecture just as clearly as through ritual or spoken devotion. At Olympia, one of the oldest sanctuaries of Greece included a temple dedicated to Hera that remained important for centuries. Long before many famous monuments were completed elsewhere, worshippers gathered there to honor her through offerings and seasonal festivals. The temple quietly witnessed changing generations while preserving familiar traditions. Stone foundations, wooden elements in its earliest form, and later architectural improvements reflected the slow passage of time rather than sudden transformation. This peaceful continuity matched Hera's role as protector of enduring institutions that outlived individual lives and connected communities across many decades. In Argos, Hera received particular devotion, and the great sanctuary known as the Heraion became an important center of worship. Pilgrims traveled through quiet countryside before reaching its elevated location, where broad views stretched across the surrounding land. Ceremonies performed their honored Hera with music, offerings, and respectful processions. Although myths often highlighted dramatic events, daily religious practice remained steady and peaceful. The sanctuary represented continuity rather than spectacle, allowing visitors to experience a calm sense of belonging within traditions that linked families, neighboring cities, and shared memories across the generations. Marriage in ancient Greece carried practical responsibilities alongside spiritual meaning. Households formed the foundation of society, making harmony within the home especially valuable. Hera's presence in religious life reflected this understanding. Rather than focusing solely upon celebration, rituals emphasized lasting commitment, cooperation, and careful stewardship of family life. These values appeared in prayers offered before weddings and in ongoing acts of devotion afterward. The sacred bond did not end with a single ceremony, but continued through ordinary moments of shared work, hospitality, remembrance, and quiet dedication that gradually shaped peaceful lives together. Artists frequently portrayed Hera wearing a crown and holding a royal scepter, symbols that reflected dignity rather than force. In sacred spaces, these familiar images reminded worshippers of her role as guardian of lawful order within divine and human relationships. The crown suggested responsibility carried with calm steadiness, while the scepter represented rightful authority exercised through established custom. Together, these symbols encouraged thoughtful reflection on leadership grounded in patience and stability. Even without elaborate storytelling, such quiet representations communicated values that remained meaningful throughout centuries of Greek religious tradition. The pomegranate sometimes appeared among Hera's sacred symbols, representing fertility, continuity, and the promise of future generations. Its many seeds naturally suggested abundance and the unfolding of family lines through time. In religious contexts, this symbolism was gentle rather than dramatic, encouraging gratitude for life's steady renewal. Alongside other offerings placed before her temples, the fruit quietly expressed hope for healthy households and peaceful prosperity. Ancient worshippers found meaning in these familiar natural objects, allowing ordinary harvests to reflect larger patterns of divine blessing woven into the changing seasons. The cuckoo was another bird associated with Hera in ancient tradition. According to one well-known myth, Zeus once transformed himself into a cuckoo before winning Hera's attention. Although myths tell this story with imaginative detail, later religious symbolism often focused simply on the bird itself. Seasonal birds arriving each year reminded observers of returning cycles within nature and the dependable rhythm of time. Quiet signs in the landscape became gentle reflections of continuity, suggesting that familiar patterns of renewal surrounded both the natural world and the enduring customs honored in sacred festivals. Priests and priestesses who served at Hera's sanctuaries maintained rituals with careful consistency. Their responsibilities included tending sacred spaces, preparing offerings, and preserving traditional ceremonies that had been handed down through generations. Daily acts of maintenance carried as much importance as larger festivals, since regular devotion expressed lasting respect. Clean altars, orderly processions, and carefully observed customs created an atmosphere of quiet reverence. These peaceful routines reflected the broader values associated with Hera, showing that stability often grows through many small acts repeated faithfully across long stretches of time. Across different regions of Greece, local traditions honored Hera in slightly different ways while preserving her central identity as protector of marriage and established order. Each sanctuary reflected the landscape around it, yet shared familiar prayers and symbols connected distant communities. Travelers could recognize these common elements despite regional variations, finding comfort in traditions that remained recognizable across mountains, islands, and valleys. This balance between local character and shared belief allowed Hera's worship to become both deeply personal and widely understood throughout the Greek world. As centuries passed, kingdoms rose and fell, yet many temples dedicated to Hera continued to inspire quiet admiration. Even where only weathered columns remained, visitors could still sense the calm intention behind their construction. Stone endured beyond individual lifetimes, preserving memories of ceremonies centered upon peace, family, and faithful commitment. The gentle legacy of Hera's sacred marriage was therefore carried not only in myths, but also in enduring architecture and enduring traditions. Together, they offered a lasting image of harmony patiently cultivated through respect, continuity, and the steady passage of time. Within the wider tapestry of Greek mythology, Hera's sacred traditions remind us that religious life often emphasized quiet endurance more than dramatic stories. Festivals concluded, offerings were gathered, and prayers faded into the evening air, yet the values they expressed continued within ordinary homes and familiar routines. The peaceful rhythm of devotion linked generations through shared customs rather than grand spectacle. In this gentle continuity, Hera remained a steady presence, symbolizing the lasting strength found in commitment, careful stewardship, and the calm preservation of traditions that quietly shaped the ancient Greek world. Across ancient Greece, the quiet presence of Hera could be felt not only through stories, but also through graceful temples raised in her honor. These sanctuaries stood among olive groves, beside gentle rivers, and on broad plains where the changing seasons slowly marked the passage of time. Their columns welcomed soft morning light and long evening shadows, creating places where prayer blended with birdsong and the distant breeze. Rather than grand displays of power, these sacred spaces often offered calm rhythms of worship, reminding visitors that devotion could unfold through steady traditions repeated over many generations. One of the oldest and most respected sanctuaries dedicated to Hera stood at Argos, a city that cherished her as its special guardian. Here, generations gathered for festivals celebrating harmony, family, and the enduring bonds that connected communities. The temple rested within a landscape of gentle hills, where sunlight drifted across stone pathways and quiet trees. The atmosphere encouraged careful reflection rather than hurried movement. Even after buildings changed over centuries, the sacred character of the place remained woven into local memory, preserving Hera's connection with dignity and steadfast care. The Heraeon near Argos became a center where architecture and nature seemed to move together with quiet balance. Stone terraces overlooked peaceful valleys, while carefully built walls followed the natural shape of the land. Pilgrims arriving from distant towns encountered broad views before entering the sacred enclosure, allowing the surrounding landscape to become part of the experience. The gentle silence of the countryside softened every footstep. Within these calm surroundings, Hera's role as protector of marriage and civic order felt closely connected to the steady beauty of the earth itself. Far to the west, at Olympia, Hera shared the sacred sanctuary with other important shrines. Her temple there was among the oldest monumental buildings at the site, quietly witnessing centuries of peaceful rituals and seasonal celebrations. Long before athletic contests became widely known, worshippers already honored Hera within this calm setting. Gentle smoke from offerings rose toward the open sky, while nearby trees provided welcome shade during warm afternoons. The temple became a lasting symbol of continuity, standing through changing generations with remarkable patience. Within the sanctuary at Olympia, the architecture reflected simplicity shaped by careful craftsmanship. Strong columns supported broad roofs that sheltered sacred spaces from bright summer sunlight. The quiet geometry of stone encouraged slow movement and thoughtful observation. Every carefully carved block spoke of patient labor rather than haste. Time gradually softened sharp edges, yet the harmony of the design endured. Visitors could experience a peaceful dialogue between human skill and the natural world, where light, shadow, and stone settled into an enduring rhythm. On the island of Samos, Hera was honored in one of the most celebrated sanctuaries of the ancient Greek world. According to local tradition, the goddess had a special connection to this fertile landscape. The sanctuary stood near gentle wetlands where reeds moved quietly with the wind and birds crossed calm skies. Pilgrims approached along broad sacred pathways lined with offerings from many distant places. Despite its importance, the setting retained a peaceful atmosphere shaped by water, open horizons, and the slow rhythm of island life. The sanctuary at Samos grew over many centuries, with new buildings replacing earlier structures while preserving the sacred character of the place. Monumental columns eventually rose above the surrounding plain, creating an impressive yet tranquil silhouette visible from afar. Travelers arriving by sea could glimpse these towering forms before reaching shore. Even at its grandest, the sanctuary remained closely connected to the quiet sounds of wind, water, and birds. Grandeur and serenity existed together without conflict, offering a lasting sense of balance. Many smaller shrines dedicated to Hera appeared throughout Greece, each reflecting the traditions of its local community. Some overlooked peaceful valleys, while others stood beside clear springs or gentle forests. These places were often modest in size, yet they carried deep meaning for the families who worshiped there. Local festivals, simple offerings, and quiet prayers connected everyday life with sacred custom. Across the Greek world, Hera's presence became part of familiar landscapes where ordinary routines blended naturally with reverence. The architecture of Hera's temples often expressed stability through balanced proportions and orderly design. Straight rows of columns framed open spaces where sunlight shifted gradually throughout the day. Builders carefully selected stone that would endure changing seasons, allowing each sanctuary to remain part of the landscape for generations. As years passed, weather gently softened every surface without diminishing the dignity of the structures. Even in quiet ruin, these temples continued to reflect calm craftsmanship shaped by patience and careful intention. Offerings brought to Hera's sanctuaries were often simple expressions of gratitude and devotion. Woven textiles, carefully crafted vessels, and modest gifts reflected respect rather than extravagance. Priests and attendants maintained the sacred spaces with regular care, ensuring that each festival unfolded according to long-established traditions. The repetition of these gentle customs created a comforting rhythm that continued year after year. Within the peaceful surroundings of the temples, daily acts of devotion quietly reinforced the enduring relationship between community and goddess. Throughout the changing seasons, Hera's temples welcomed different qualities of light. Spring filled the surrounding fields with fresh color, while summer brought warm, golden afternoons beneath clear skies. Autumn softened the landscape with muted tones, and winter wrapped the ancient stones in cool stillness. Each season offered a different expression of quiet beauty, without altering the sacred identity of the sanctuary. The temples remained steady through every cycle, reflecting the enduring constancy associated with Hera herself. As centuries passed, earthquakes, weather, and changing civilizations transformed many of Hera's sanctuaries. Roofs disappeared, columns fell, and marble slowly returned to the landscape from which it had come. Yet even in partial ruin, these places retained an atmosphere of remarkable peace. Visitors today often encounter open skies framed by ancient stones, where silence has become part of the architecture itself. The enduring remains continue to express quiet permanence across the landscapes of Greece. Archaeologists carefully study these sanctuaries to better understand the lives of those who worship there. Fragments of pottery, inscriptions, and architectural details reveal patient stories preserved beneath the soil. Each discovery contributes another small piece to the long history of Hera's sacred places. Rather than disturbing their calm character, careful research helps protect these landscapes for future generations. The temples continue to offer quiet lessons through stone, earth, and the gentle passage of time. Today, the temples of Hera remain woven into the landscapes of Greece, where sunlight continues to move across weathered columns just as it did long ago. Olive trees sway gently nearby, birds cross open skies, and distant mountains provide an unchanging horizon. Though the rituals have faded into history, the sense of calm still lingers among the ancient stones. These sanctuaries quietly preserve memories of devotion, craftsmanship, and enduring balance, inviting every passing season to settle peacefully upon them once again. Across the Greek world, quiet festivals honored Hera with measured processions, hymns, and offerings that reflected gratitude rather than urgency. Her sanctuaries welcomed families who arrived with simple gifts of flowers, woven cloth, fragrant oil, or carefully prepared cakes. Priests tended the sacred spaces with deliberate care, keeping altars clean and the fires steady. These occasions reminded each visitor that harmony within a household was considered a blessing that reached beyond a single family. Under clear skies and among ancient stones, devotion unfolded with calm rhythms that matched the slow passage of the seasons. One of Hera's most cherished celebrations took place at the Heraion of Argos, where generations remembered her as the protector of marriage and civic harmony. The sanctuary rested within a peaceful landscape of olive trees and quiet valleys. Sacred songs echoed softly between its columns, while offerings were arranged with care. Visitors approached the temple respectfully, believing that steady devotion strengthened both the city and the bonds between loved ones. Nothing hurried these observances. Every movement reflected patience, order, and a gentle confidence in traditions carried faithfully through many lifetimes. Ancient weddings often began long before the ceremony itself. Families prepared garments, ornaments, and household gifts over many days, allowing each task to unfold without haste. Hera was remembered throughout these preparations as the divine guardian of lawful union and enduring companionship. Songs celebrated not excitement alone, but the quiet hope that two households would grow together with mutual respect. The careful pace of these customs reflected a belief that lasting partnerships were built through steadiness, kindness, and shared responsibility rather than sudden moments alone. Water held a peaceful place in many wedding customs. Ritual bathing symbolized a gentle beginning, washing away the ordinary concerns of daily life before entering a new household. Springs and fountains associated with sacred places offered calm surroundings where purity and renewal were quietly honored. The flowing water suggested continuity, reminding those present that marriage was understood as a long journey rather than a single celebration. The soft sound of moving streams blended naturally with birdsong and distant breezes through the trees. The bridal veil carried quiet symbolism within Greek tradition. Draped lightly across the bride, it marked the transition from one stage of life to another with dignity rather than spectacle. Hera's presence was remembered not as a forceful command, but as a protective blessing surrounding the new household. Gentle ceremonies emphasized respect for family, ancestors, and the promises made before both community and gods. Every carefully chosen garment reflected patience, craftsmanship, and an appreciation for beauty expressed through simplicity. Torches sometimes illuminated evening wedding processions, casting warm light along quiet roads leading toward a new home. Their steady flames symbolized guidance and continuity, carrying hope into the shared future of the couple. Though celebrations could include music and joyful voices, the deeper meaning remained calm and enduring. Hera watched over the sacred promise itself, encouraging constancy instead of fleeting emotion. The slow movement of light through the gathering dusk became a peaceful reminder that every household begins with small, faithful steps. Garlands woven from fresh leaves and blossoms adorned sacred spaces with understated beauty. Laurel, myrtle, and seasonal flowers reflected the changing rhythms of nature, while honoring the enduring character of marriage. Their fragrance drifted quietly through temple courtyards warmed by gentle sunlight. Nothing within these decorations sought grandeur alone. Instead, they expressed care through patient handiwork and thoughtful arrangement. Such simple ornaments reminded worshippers that lasting happiness often grows from daily acts of attention, repeated with kindness over many years. Offerings dedicated to Hera often reflected the ordinary blessings of home. Fine cloth, woven by careful hands, represented patience and skill. Small vessels of olive oil or fragrant incense acknowledged gratitude for peace and prosperity. These gifts were not measured by great wealth but by sincere intention. Quiet devotion encouraged balance between human effort and divine favor. Within the stillness of the sanctuary, each offering became part of a tradition that honored stability, generosity, and faithful care for family life. Poets sometimes described marriage as the joining of two gentle streams that continued forward together, without losing their individual character. Hera's guardianship reflected this balanced vision. She represented commitment that allowed households to flourish through cooperation and mutual respect. Rather than dramatic transformation, the ancient stories often celebrated gradual growth shaped by seasons, shared work, and quiet affection. These peaceful ideals echoed through festivals where familiar songs returned year after year with comforting familiarity. The sacred peacock, later closely associated with Hera, became a graceful reminder of dignity and attentive watchfulness. Its brilliant feathers suggested beauty that unfolded naturally without haste. Within temple art and later tradition, the bird reflected the queenly presence of the goddess rather than restless movement. Standing quietly beneath open skies, it symbolized constancy and careful observation. Even in silence, such imagery encouraged reflection upon patience, loyalty, and the quiet strength found within enduring relationships. Many sanctuaries dedicated to Hera overlooked broad landscapes where hills, fields, and distant mountains stretched beneath changing light. Couples beginning married life could look outward from these peaceful places and imagine long years unfolding gently before them. The surrounding countryside reminded visitors that human lives, like the earth itself, pass through seasons of planting, harvest, rest, and renewal. Hera's temple stood quietly within these rhythms, offering a sense of permanence that comforted generations across centuries. Marriage in ancient Greece also carried practical responsibilities shared between households. Agreements involved cooperation, hospitality, and care for future generations. Hera's sacred role emphasized the stability that allowed communities to prosper through dependable family life. Religious rituals gently reinforced these values without overshadowing the ordinary work that followed every celebration. Once the songs faded, Daily kindness and thoughtful responsibility became the living expression of the blessings invoked within the temple's peaceful walls. As festivals came to their calm conclusion, incense drifted upward in slow spirals while the final hymns faded into the evening air. Worshippers departed without haste, leaving the sanctuary as peaceful as they had found it. Hera's presence remained linked not only with ceremony, but with the quiet continuation of ordinary life. Homes, fields, and family tables became places where sacred promises were fulfilled through gentle consistency. The silence after celebration carried its own quiet sense of completeness. Across generations, these festivals and wedding customs preserved a vision of marriage rooted in patience, reverence, and enduring companionship. Hera's temples witnessed countless peaceful beginnings without needing grand displays or dramatic endings. Their weathered stones continued to welcome gentle footsteps beneath open skies, reminding every visitor that lasting harmony grows slowly through faithful care. Like the steady turning of the seasons, the traditions surrounding Hera offered a quiet rhythm that settled naturally into memory and rested there with serene simplicity. In the quiet traditions of ancient Greece, Hera was often recognized not only by her crown, but also by the gentle symbols that surrounded her. These sacred companions helped worshippers remember different parts of her character without hurried explanation. They appeared in temples, on painted pottery, and in carefully carved stone. Rather than standing for power alone, they reflected dignity, patience, protection, and enduring order. Each symbol carried its own calm rhythm, inviting thoughtful observation instead of dramatic action. Together, they formed a peaceful language of devotion, allowing generations to honor the Queen of Olympus through familiar and reassuring images. Among Hera's best-known companions was the Peacock, whose magnificent feathers became closely linked with her divine presence. Greek artists often placed the graceful bird beside her throne or wandering peacefully through temple gardens. Its brilliant pattern suggested beauty that unfolded slowly, inviting careful attention instead of haste. Over time, the peacock became a familiar emblem of royal dignity and divine watchfulness. Even when represented in quiet mosaics or painted vessels, it reminded worshippers of Hera's steady authority, expressed through elegance and composure rather than constant movement or force. One ancient story explains the remarkable markings upon the peacock's tail. After the hundred-eyed guardian Argus was honored by Hera, she placed his many watchful eyes upon the bird's feathers as a lasting memorial. In this gentle transformation, remembrance became more important than sorrow. The shining circles spread across each feather like quiet stars arranged with careful purpose. Rather than celebrating conflict, later artists often emphasized the peaceful result, a graceful creature carrying memory with dignity, allowing the faithful to reflect upon loyalty preserved through lasting symbols. The cow was another sacred symbol closely connected with Hera throughout Greek tradition. Ancient poets occasionally described the goddess herself with the respectful expression cow-eyed, referring not to livestock but to calm, wide, and beautiful eyes. The phrase suggested serenity, quiet strength, and noble presence. In a world shaped by farming and seasonal rhythms, the healthy cow also represented care, nourishment, and dependable abundance. These gentle associations suited Hera's role as protector of households and lawful marriage, where stability was valued above sudden displays of excitement. Across the countryside of Greece, peaceful herds quietly shaped everyday life. Milk, fields, and steady agricultural work formed the foundation of many communities, making the cow a deeply familiar presence. When connected with Hera, This animal reminded worshippers that divine care could be understood through ordinary rhythms as well as grand ceremonies. The goddess watched over enduring relationships, family continuity, and the careful order that allowed generations to flourish. In this setting, the humble symbol carried quiet dignity, reflecting dependable constancy rather than dramatic spectacle. Pomegranates also appeared among the symbols sometimes associated with Hera. Their many seeds enclosed within a single fruit naturally suggested abundance, continuity, and the flourishing of family lines. In temple decoration and painted ceramics, the fruit could quietly accompany the goddess without overwhelming the scene. Its rounded form and rich interior reflected ideas of prosperity patiently unfolding over time. While different Greek regions emphasized different sacred objects, the pomegranate remained one gentle reminder that lasting growth often arrived through seasons of care, devotion, and faithful commitment. The royal scepter held by Hera represented authority expressed through lawful order rather than restless conquest. Unlike weapons carried into battle, the scepter rested quietly in the hand of a ruler whose responsibility was to preserve balance and justice. Sculptors frequently portrayed it with graceful simplicity, emphasizing calm sovereignty instead of force. For those entering her sanctuaries, the staff reminded them that enduring leadership required patience, wisdom, and steady judgment. The symbol quietly reflected the peaceful structure that supported both divine society and the daily lives of ordinary families. The diadem or crown worn by Hera carried meaning beyond ornament. It marked her place as queen among the Olympian gods while expressing the quiet dignity expected of divine rulership. Ancient artists often gave the crown balanced proportions, allowing it to complement rather than dominate her appearance. Gold, carefully shaped into leaves or simple bands, reflected light with restrained elegance. The crown invited contemplation of responsibility instead of display, suggesting that true honor rested in preserving harmony through wisdom, steadiness, and faithful guardianship. Many temples dedicated to Hera displayed these familiar symbols together through carvings, painted decoration, or carefully placed offerings. Visitors walking beneath tall columns could encounter reminders of the peacock, the cow, the pomegranate, and the royal crown woven quietly into sacred architecture. None demanded hurried attention. Instead, each invited slow reflection while sunlight crossed the marble floors. In this peaceful environment, symbols became companions for meditation, gently reinforcing the goddess's connection with lawful marriage, enduring households, and respectful devotion throughout the passing generations. Local traditions sometimes emphasized one sacred emblem more than another, depending upon the customs of each sanctuary. A traveler moving from one region of Greece to another could notice familiar themes expressed with subtle differences. Yet the underlying ideas remained remarkably consistent. Hera continued to embody dignity, continuity, and careful guardianship, while her symbols quietly reflected these enduring qualities. Such regional variety added richness without disturbing the calm unity of her worship, allowing every sanctuary to express shared reverence through its own peaceful artistic language. Greek potters found gentle ways to include Hera's sacred symbols upon everyday vessels. A graceful peacock might appear along the curve of a jar, while a pomegranate or royal ornament decorated its surface with careful balance. These objects accompanied ordinary meals, festivals, and household rituals, allowing sacred imagery to remain close to daily life. Their quiet presence reflected a culture in which mythology and routine naturally met. Through familiar craftsmanship, symbols of the goddess gently entered homes without disturbing the peaceful rhythm of each passing season. Centuries later, Archaeologists uncovered many of these symbols preserved in fragments of pottery, temple foundations, coins, and sculpture. Each discovery added another quiet detail to the story of Hera's worship across the Greek world. Although time had softened colors and broken stone, the familiar images remained recognizable. The peacock's feathers, the careful crown, and other sacred emblems continued speaking through silent craftsmanship. Their survival reminds modern visitors that symbols can gently outlast generations, carrying memory forward with remarkable patience and enduring grace. Today, museums carefully preserve many objects connected with Hera's sacred imagery. Visitors often move slowly through quiet galleries where soft light reveals the delicate work of long-ago artisans. A carved feather, a painted bird, or a finely shaped crown becomes more than decoration. Each object quietly reflects the beliefs and hopes of people who sought harmony within family, community, and sacred tradition. These surviving symbols invite peaceful observation, encouraging an appreciation for craftsmanship, mythology, and the calm continuity linking distant centuries with the present. Taken together, the peacock, the cow, the crown, the scepter, and the pomegranate create a gentle portrait of Hera that extends beyond familiar stories. They speak of order maintained through patience, beauty joined with responsibility, and quiet strength expressed through faithful care. Rather than competing for attention, each symbol contributes a peaceful note to a balanced whole. Resting among temples, artworks, and remembered traditions, they continue to offer a calm vision of divine queenship that has endured across countless generations of thoughtful remembrance. Among the divine households of Greek tradition, Hera was remembered as the queen whose place within the family of the Olympians carried lasting dignity. She was the daughter of the Titans Cronus and Rhea, making her part of an ancient line that stretched back to the first generations of the cosmos. Alongside her brothers and sisters, she belonged to the generation that replaced the rule of the Titans with the calmer order of Olympus. Ancient storytellers often described her royal position not as a passing honor, but as an enduring responsibility that linked past, present, and future through careful tradition. Hera's marriage to Zeus became one of the central relationships in Greek mythology. Although many myths describe disagreements between them, ancient worship also honored their union as a sacred model of lawful marriage and royal partnership. Their marriage represented continuity for the divine household rather than constant celebration or dramatic change. In many temples, worshippers approached Hera with quiet respect, recognizing her role as guardian of established bonds. The stories surrounding the marriage were numerous and varied, yet the religious tradition consistently placed dignity, order, and permanence at the heart of her queenship beside Zeus. Ancient sources commonly named Ares among the children of Hera and Zeus. As the god associated with battle, he represented a very different aspect of divine life from his mother's quiet concern for lawful order. Even so, family relationships in Greek mythology were rarely defined by simple similarities. Each deity carried a unique place within the wider household of Olympus. Hera remained queen regardless of the differing paths followed by her children. The myths allowed every member of the divine family to possess distinct qualities, while still belonging to the same enduring royal lineage. Another child frequently associated with Hera and Zeus was Hebe, the goddess of youth. In ancient poetry, Hebe served the Olympian gods by offering the nectar and ambrosia that belonged to the divine table before later traditions connected that role more closely with Ganymede. Her presence suggested freshness, renewal, and graceful continuity within Olympus. Rather than standing for conflict, Hebe quietly reflected the steady rhythm of eternal life among the gods. Through her, The household of Hera included not only royal authority, but also the gentle promise of lasting vitality. Many ancient traditions also counted Eileithyia among Hera's children. She became the goddess connected with childbirth and the safe arrival of new life. Greek women sometimes called upon Eileithyia during labor, asking for calm assistance during one of life's most important moments. Her place within Hera's family reflected the queen's own close association with marriage and the continuity of households across generations. The myths did not always agree on every detail of divine genealogy, yet Eileithyia consistently represented peaceful beginnings and the careful passage from expectation into new life. Some traditions also describe Hephaestus as Hera's son. Ancient authors offered different accounts of his birth. In one familiar version, he was the child of both Hera and Zeus. In another, Hera brought him forth on her own. Such variations were common in Greek mythology, where local traditions often preserved different memories side by side. Hephaestus became the divine craftsman, shaping remarkable works within his forge. His skill, patience, and careful workmanship formed another branch of Hera's family story, connecting royal ancestry with the quiet excellence of creation. Greek mythology rarely sought a single fixed family tree accepted everywhere. Different poets, cities, and sanctuaries sometimes preserved distinct genealogies for the same gods. Hera's family was therefore understood through several respected traditions, rather than one unchanging account. Ancient listeners accepted these variations, without requiring every story to match perfectly. What remained constant was Hera's identity as queen, wife of Zeus, daughter of Cronus and Rhea, and mother within the royal household of Olympus. Her lasting importance rested more upon her sacred role than upon exact agreement over every detail of lineage. The royal family of Olympus formed a symbolic picture of order for many Greek communities. Hera occupied a place that reflected stability within this larger household. Festivals, prayers, and temple rituals often emphasized her authority over marriage, family continuity, and lawful unions, rather than dramatic episodes from myth. In this religious setting, genealogy became more than a list of names. It expressed the harmony between generations of divine beings whose relationships explain the structure of the sacred world. Hera's place within that structure remained calm, respected, and enduring throughout Greek tradition. Across the Greek world, local communities sometimes honored Hera with titles that reflected their own traditions. While her family relationships were broadly shared, each sanctuary could emphasize different aspects of her divine character. Some places celebrated her as a bride, others as a queen, and others as a guardian of married life. These local customs did not replace the wider mythology, but gently added to it. Together, they created a rich tapestry in which Hera's royal lineage remained familiar, while her worship reflected the unique landscape and history of each community. The children associated with Hera each represented different parts of existence. Youth, craftsmanship, childbirth, and even the harsh realities of conflict all found places within the divine family. Rather than suggesting contradiction, these differences reflected the broad scope of Greek mythology itself. The gods embodied many experiences that shaped both human and divine life. Hera's role remained constant as the queen whose household included varied destinies, while preserving the dignity of the larger Olympian family. Her identity rested upon continuity more than change, creating a quiet sense of permanence throughout the myths. Ancient artists frequently portrayed Hera with symbols of royal authority rather than scenes of domestic life. A crown, a scepter, or a stately throne quietly expressed her place within the divine family. These objects reminded worshippers that lineage carried responsibilities as well as honor. The Queen of Olympus represented lawful authority rooted in generations that stretched back to the Titans and forward through the continuing life of the gods. Such images offered peaceful reassurance that sacred order endured beyond the passing events described in individual myths. Poets often remembered Hera within long genealogies that connected many divine figures across generations. These family lines helped listeners understand how the Olympians related to one another and how earlier cosmic ages gave way to the familiar order of Olympus. Hera stood near the center of these relationships through birth, marriage, and motherhood. Even when myths differed in detail, her position remained remarkably stable. She linked ancient ancestry with the continuing life of the gods, forming a quiet bridge between the oldest traditions and the enduring ceremonies practiced in Greek sanctuaries. The peaceful rhythm of Hera's lineage was reflected not only in stories, but also in ritual memory. Families who honored her sought blessings for marriages that would remain steady across generations. The idea of continuity mattered deeply within Greek religious life. Parents, children, and descendants formed living connections, much like the divine genealogies preserved in myth. Hera's own place within the royal family of Olympus gave symbolic support to these hopes for lasting households. Her presence suggested that faithful bonds could endure quietly through the changing seasons of life. In the end, Hera's family story is less about counting names than about recognizing continuity. Daughter of ancient titans, queen beside Zeus, and mother in several respected traditions, she occupied a lasting place within Greek mythology. Her lineage connected the earliest generations of the cosmos with the settled order of Olympus. Across centuries of worship, temples, hymns, and festivals remembered her as a guardian of enduring relationships. The calm image that remains is one of quiet sovereignty, where royal ancestry and sacred family life rested together beneath the timeless sky of Greece. Among the 12 Olympian gods, Hera held one of the highest places, not through loud displays of strength, but through lasting dignity and sacred responsibility. Ancient Greek tradition honored her as the Queen of Olympus, sharing the heavenly throne beside Zeus. Her presence represented order within divine society, reminding gods and mortals alike that authority could be expressed through patience, ceremony, and enduring custom. In stories, temples, and festivals, her royal position remained constant, offering a quiet symbol of stability that rested above mountains, cities, and peaceful valleys, where generations remembered her name with respectful devotion. Hera belonged to the eldest generation of Olympian deities. She was the daughter of Cronus and Rhea, making her the sister of Zeus, Poseidon, Demeter, Hestia, and Hades. Like her siblings, she emerged into a renewed age after the rule of the Titans had ended. This shared beginning connected the Olympian family through a common history that shaped the order of the cosmos. Ancient poets often described this family not simply as rulers of power, but as guardians of a world that gradually settled into balance after a time of great upheaval. As Queen of Olympus, Hera was closely associated with rightful authority rather than conquest. Her role reflected the importance of lawful order inside both divine and human communities. Ancient worshippers often imagined her moving with measured grace through bright halls of the gods, where ceremonies, oaths, and formal gatherings carried lasting meaning. Even when myths describe disagreements among the Olympians, Hera's royal status remained secure. Her crown symbolized continuity, reminding listeners that enduring institutions often outlast moments of conflict and return quietly to their familiar rhythm. The Greeks honored Hera as the protector of marriage and its sacred promises. This role gave her a special place among the Olympians because family life stood at the center of many communities. Weddings, household ceremonies, and seasonal festivals sometimes included prayers asking for harmony, mutual respect, and lasting companionship. Her divine authority extended beyond royal splendor into the everyday hopes of ordinary people. In this way, Hera connected the lofty world of Olympus with quiet homes where generations gathered beneath familiar roofs and shared traditions across many years. Across the Greek world, Hera received honor in celebrated sanctuaries that reflected her importance. Great temples rose at places such as Argos, Samos, and Olympia, where worship continued through changing centuries. These sacred spaces often stood within broad landscapes of olive trees, gentle hills, and clear skies. Pilgrims approached with offerings, not only seeking favor, but participating in customs that strengthened communal identity. The calm architecture of these temples expressed permanence, inviting visitors to experience a sense of order that echoed Hera's enduring place among the Olympian gods. Although Zeus ruled as king of the gods, Hera possessed her own independent sphere of honor. Ancient religion recognized many divine powers existing together, each with distinct responsibilities. Hera's influence did not depend solely upon her relationship with Zeus. Cities built sanctuaries specifically for her, celebrated festivals in her name, and preserved traditions that emphasized her own sacred identity. This separate devotion reveals how Greek worship often balanced many forms of reverence, allowing each deity to embody particular aspects of the natural world and human experience. In works of ancient art, Hera is often shown with calm majesty. A crown, a veil, or a royal scepter may accompany her, expressing authority through quiet symbols rather than dramatic movement. Sculptors favored balanced posture and composed expression, reflecting ideals of dignity admired in classical Greece. These artistic traditions encouraged viewers to see Hera not only as a participant in myth, but as an enduring image of lawful order and noble presence. Across centuries, these representations remained remarkably consistent, reinforcing her respected place within the Olympian family. Many festivals dedicated to Hera blended religious devotion with peaceful gatherings. Music, processions, athletic contests, and offerings formed part of local traditions, creating occasions where communities celebrated together beneath the protection of the goddess. Such festivals reminded participants that divine worship also strengthened social bonds among neighbors and families. The gentle rhythm of repeated ceremonies connected one generation to the next, allowing familiar customs to endure through changing seasons. Hera's place among the Olympians therefore reached beyond mythology into the steady patterns of everyday civic life. The peacock later became closely associated with Hera, especially in artistic traditions of the classical and later periods. Its graceful appearance and radiant feathers reflected ideas of beauty, dignity, and royal splendor. Although the bird is better known from later artistic symbolism than from the earliest layers of Greek religion, it became one of the enduring emblems connected with the goddess. Resting peacefully within temple gardens or imagined landscapes, the peacock quietly expressed the majestic character that many generations came to associate with Hera's divine presence. Among the Olympians, each deity possessed unique responsibilities that complemented the others. Athena guided wisdom, Demeter watched over agriculture, Apollo inspired music and prophecy, while Hera safeguarded the sacred dignity of marriage and queenship. This distribution of divine roles helped ancient Greeks understand the many dimensions of life through a harmonious spiritual framework. Rather than viewing every god as identical, Worshippers recognized a rich balance of powers working together within the ordered cosmos, imagined by poets, priests, artists, and communities across the Greek world. The stories of Hera often reveal strong emotion, yet her religious importance extended far beyond dramatic mythology. Ancient worship focused less upon individual tales and more upon the lasting qualities she represented. Sacred rituals, temple dedications, and civic celebrations honored her enduring role within the divine order. For countless worshippers, Hera was a guardian of continuity, whose presence offered reassurance that traditions could remain steady across generations. Her place among the Olympians rested upon this lasting significance as much as upon the memorable narratives preserved by poets. Greek cities sometimes regarded Hera as a special protector whose favor strengthened local identity. Different regions developed their own customs, songs, and festivals, while still recognizing her universal place as Queen of the Olympians. This local devotion added richness to Greek religion, without diminishing the shared traditions that united distant communities. Travelers visiting her sanctuaries would encounter familiar symbols expressed through regional architecture and ceremony. Together, these sacred places formed a quiet network of worship stretching across islands, valleys, coastlines, and fertile plains. Even after the height of classical Greece had passed, Hera remained an enduring figure in literature, sculpture, and historical memory. Roman culture honored her under the name Juno while preserving many of her royal associations. Scholars, artists, and storytellers continued to reflect upon her place within the ancient pantheon, recognizing her importance in understanding Greek ideas about family, authority, and sacred tradition. Through surviving temples and timeless myths, her quiet dignity continues to echo across centuries, with remarkable calm and graceful permanence. When viewed as a whole, Hera's place among the Olympian gods reflects more than the rank of a heavenly queen. She embodies continuity, lawful order, sacred partnership, and the enduring value of established custom. Mountains, temples, poems, and ceremonies all preserved different expressions of this peaceful authority. Across the ancient Greek world, her presence offered a steady reminder that lasting institutions are often built through patience rather than haste. In the stillness of remembered sanctuaries, Hera remains a serene symbol of balance within the divine household of Olympus. As generations passed, Hera remained one of the most deeply honored deities of the ancient Greek world. Her presence reached far beyond stories of Olympus and into the quiet rhythms of everyday life. Couples beginning a household, communities celebrating seasonal festivals, and cities preserving ancient traditions all remembered her with calm reverence. She represented continuity rather than sudden change, encouraging the steady bonds that allowed families and societies to endure across many years. In this peaceful way, Hera became a lasting symbol of order, dignity, and the quiet responsibilities that shaped Greek life from one generation to the next. Among Hera's most celebrated sanctuaries was the Heraion near Argos, a sacred place visited for centuries. Stone pathways led quietly toward altars where offerings of flowers, fruit, woven cloth, and incense reflected gratitude rather than grandeur. The sanctuary evolved over time as new buildings replaced older ones, yet the devotion remained remarkably constant. Pilgrims arrived with measured footsteps, participating in rituals that connected them with ancestors who had walked the same ground long before. The enduring sanctuary became a peaceful reminder that sacred places often gather meaning slowly, through countless calm acts of remembrance. On the island of Samos, another magnificent sanctuary honored Hera with exceptional care. The great temple there grew into one of the largest sacred buildings in the Greek world, reflecting generations of craftsmanship and devotion. Columns rose toward the open sky, while sea breezes carried the sounds of distant waves across the quiet sanctuary. Travelers approaching by land or water would have recognized the temple as a place of stability and welcome. Through changing centuries, the sanctuary remained closely connected with the island's identity and with the peaceful continuity of religious tradition. The festivals dedicated to Hera reflected the measured pace of community life. Sacred processions, carefully prepared offerings, songs, and athletic events could accompany these celebrations, depending on local custom. Although each city honored the goddess in its own way, the central themes remained remarkably consistent. Marriage, family harmony, civic stability, and respect for divine order formed the quiet heart of these observances. Rather than dramatic spectacle alone, the festivals expressed gratitude for the enduring structures that allowed ordinary life to continue peacefully through changing seasons and passing years. Artists throughout the Greek world often portrayed Hera with calm dignity. She commonly appeared seated upon a throne or standing with composed confidence, wearing a graceful crown that reflected her position as queen of the Olympian gods. A scepter sometimes accompanied her, representing lawful authority rather than force. The peacock later became closely associated with her in Greek and Roman art, its brilliant feathers expressing majesty and careful watchfulness. These familiar symbols allowed worshippers to recognize Hera immediately, while emphasizing serenity, honor, and lasting royal presence. Many Greek cities considered Hera an important protector of civic identity as well as household life. Her temples often occupied places of honor, visible across valleys or overlooking important roads. These sacred landmarks quietly reminded residents that communities depended upon cooperation, respect, and shared customs. While political fortunes could rise and fall, the sanctuary itself often remained as a familiar point of stability. In this gentle way, Hera's presence became woven into both the physical landscape and the collective memory of countless generations. Ancient poets, historians, and travelers continued to mention Hera's sanctuaries long after they were first established. Their writings preserve careful descriptions of temples, rituals, sacred treasures, and local traditions that might otherwise have disappeared with time. Through these quiet records, modern readers glimpse the enduring respect that surrounded the goddess across many regions of Greece. Although individual customs varied, the consistent reverence shown toward Hera reveals how deeply her worship remained connected with everyday life and the enduring values of family, stability, and sacred obligation. As Greek culture spread across the Mediterranean through trade and settlement, the worship of Hera traveled as well. New communities established sanctuaries that reflected familiar traditions while adapting gently to local landscapes. Across distant shores, worshippers carried with them memories of ceremonies learned from earlier generations. In this gradual movement, Hera's presence became part of a shared cultural heritage, connecting cities separated by mountains and seas. The goddess remained a quiet thread linking diverse communities through common rituals and enduring respect. When Roman civilization embraced many Greek deities, Hera became identified with Juno. Although each tradition preserved its own distinctive character, both goddesses represented marriage, dignity, and protective authority. Temples, festivals, and works of art continued these themes within new cultural settings. This gradual transformation illustrates how ancient religious traditions often evolved without entirely abandoning earlier beliefs. The familiar image of a calm queen watching over households and communities remained recognizable even as languages, governments, and artistic styles slowly changed across the centuries. Today, the surviving columns of Hera's temples stand beneath open skies, touched by sunlight, gentle rain, and passing seasons. Though roofs have long since vanished, the remaining stone preserves an atmosphere of remarkable tranquility. Visitors walking among these ruins often encounter silence broken only by birdsong or a soft breeze moving through grasses. The architecture continues to express balance, proportion, and thoughtful craftsmanship, inviting quiet reflection on the countless generations who once gathered there with peaceful devotion. Modern archaeology has carefully uncovered many details of Hera's sanctuaries through patient excavation and study. Fragments of pottery, inscriptions, statues, and architectural remains help reconstruct the peaceful rhythm of worship practiced over many centuries. Each discovery contributes another small piece to a much larger picture, revealing not only impressive monuments, but also the ordinary offerings left by everyday people. These gentle traces remind us that lasting traditions are often built from countless humble acts repeated with care across generations. Beyond mythology itself, Hera's enduring legacy lies within literature, art, and historical study. Scholars continue examining ancient texts and sacred sites to better understand how Greek communities viewed marriage, authority, and divine protection. Painters, sculptors, and writers have returned repeatedly to her image, finding inspiration in her composed strength and regal presence. Across many centuries, interpretations have evolved, yet the central impression remains one of quiet dignity sustained through time, rather than fleeting moments of dramatic action. The peaceful landscapes surrounding many of Hera's ancient sanctuaries remain remarkably similar to those known in antiquity. Olive groves, distant mountains, broad valleys, and gentle coastlines continue to frame the ruins with quiet beauty. Standing within these places, it becomes easy to imagine the slow passage of festivals, seasons, and generations that unfolded beneath the same expansive sky. Nature itself seems to preserve a steady rhythm, offering a calm setting worthy of the goddess whose worship endured for so long. In the quiet memory of the ancient Greek world, Hera remains a figure of enduring balance. She embodied the lasting commitments that held households together, the sacred traditions that united communities, and the dignified order reflected in carefully built temples. Though centuries have passed, her story continues through weathered stone, preserved poetry, and thoughtful remembrance. Like the steady light of dawn returning each morning, her legacy rests gently within history, inviting calm reflection on continuity, devotion, and the peaceful endurance of time itself.